to go. All right. Also, we are going to be utilizing a function called Canva Live Present. The reason for this is I really want there to be some interaction in this webinar. And this is going to be a really fun way to see that. Also, there's a lot of folks who couldn't be with us this morning. And I think there is something to be said for the managers in different districts having similar experiences, going through similar hurdles, or having similar questions. So I do think that it'll be fruitful to be able to have this chat function in the presentation as we record it as well. So I would really like for everyone to engage. I will also check Microsoft Teams the best that I can, but this will kind of keep me from switching between screens if you're available. You can scan the QR code on a phone. No login is required to do this, as well as you can put in canva.live and enter in that code, and you can also present. So it should be super fun. There's like emojis and fun things. So I hope you guys find it useful and interesting and something a little bit different for our group. So, all right. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and get started. All right. So we're going to be talking about the new Employee Onboarding Pilot Program. This is something that district staff, as well as division staff and partners, have been wanting for a very, very long time. It actually was part of my sort of goals when I started as the training coordinator. And so I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about this program today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brandy Myers, and I am the training program coordinator at the Division of Soil and Water Conservation. I actually was a regional coordinator for a year and a half, briefly left Soil and Water and came back because I missed it so much, and now I get to be the training coordinator. So I'm really excited to be working on this program with all of our district managers, district staff, new employees, and of course, my division colleagues and our partnership folks. So this is really a team effort. So I'm excited for us to chat about it this morning. So here's a couple of sort of things that we plan to go over today. I want us to talk a little bit about some current methods of how we onboard new employees currently, and then some areas for opportunities, some of the details of this new program, what new employees could expect from the program, as well as what we want the managers to know that the new employees can expect. And then also, lastly, we want to know what you need from us in terms of support, and we also need support from the district managers in this process. So we do want to have a little bit of discussion time as well. So I want to dig in first into sort of the current methodologies and sort of the statistics around some things. So we do have some information about new district staff being onboarded at the district level. A lot of you fill out the new employee onboarding welcome form, and that started in 2022. I did pull some numbers directly from that form, and as far as we can tell, there were 19 new employees that filled out that form. And then in 2024, we had 33 new employees. So, you know, I think that's just the way that the world is and how jobs change. You know, it's a natural thing that we will be seeing more and more new employees. But I do think it's important for us to talk about programs like this because we do want to maintain retention in those spots, as well as like employee work-life balance and happiness. And I think a training program or an onboarding program is a great step in that direction. I've also had this number, and I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but there's been 128 Soil and Water District staff that have under 3 years of experience. So the estimation is about 43% of total staff in districts. So that is a lot of inexperienced staff in terms of getting used to the soil and water community and their skill sets and their jobs. I think everyone knows that there is a learning curve working for soil and water districts or within the partnership. So it takes a little time to get folks used to everything that this community has to offer. So that is a challenge and a hurdle, I think, for all of us as we navigate through making sure that new employees are supported. So, what have we been doing? I think most folks would say that the two things that we have been doing as far as new employee onboarding were the conservation employee training, where there is a new employee orientation that happens the day before CET. That's typically a full day workshop that covers a bunch of different training topics, but normally those topics do stay the same. And then another training objective that we have is a lot of time division staff, whether it be a cost share specialist or a regional coordinator, does try to make time for those new employees to set up some kind of training initiative, at least for a day or a couple of hours when they get onboarded. Normally, that's somewhere between a couple of weeks into their employment to a couple of months. But I do imagine that depending on the time of year, and also capacity of staff. I don't really have the data to confirm on, if there's ever any chances where folks aren't being, aren't having the same opportunity to participate in division-led training. So hopefully everybody has been, but again, a big issue for this is that there is no real systematic process. So we do want to try to think about that moving forward. So some other identifiable issues between these two programs is that CET only happens once a year. So it doesn't matter if a new employee has just been hired within 2 weeks or 10 months, the programming for that day is the same. So feedback that we've gotten is that can be really overwhelming, and it's not really an effective way of communicating the needs and the partnership all in all, because it's not really a one size fits all situation. Also, a lot of times within these two concepts, folks have felt like the content has been rushed. There's a lot to get through in just a few hours. So, it really kind of feels like an overwhelming or overload of information at times for some folks. There's also, we have a large state. And we don't have regionally located trainers. We do hope that will change in the future. And if that does change, I am sure that this will affect the new employee onboarding program in a very positive light. But at the moment, there is no, regional trainers. So we really do depend on division staff to help out. So with a large state and traveling and things like that, it's just, we have to reach all the corners of the state. So that can be a lot to cover. And then again, I mentioned the systematic approach. We really don't have a way of tracking how these things are happening, when they're happening, who's being able to do what. So, this is just one of those things that we've heard through the grapevine, and we've been trying to work on. So I told you I wanted to make this an interactive session, and so I want to dig right into it. So could you guys use the chat? Preferably the Canva one if you can, but you're also welcome to use the Microsoft Teams. I will try to check that. Have you faced any of these same obstacles? Or are there any obstacles that I didn't list on the screen before that you've faced when onboarding a new employee and getting them sort of used to just even the soil and water community and the partnership and understanding the dynamics and the resources that are available to them? And of course, if anybody wants to come off mute, they are welcome to.
Randy, this is Teresa.
Hey, Teresa.
I guess one that since I recently just had two brand new employees, some of the obstacles I face, it'd be interesting to get their feedback after a couple of months been on board. But we hire somebody and come in. There's not really a lot of time to kind of get kind of a base awareness of what's going on. It's sort of like, okay, your own, do the things necessary HR wise to get them onboarded in the system, insurance, everything onboarded, and then it's sort of like hit the ground running. So of like, we're going out here to do this today. This is what we're going to be doing. And so and sometimes I think it can be overwhelming to them. A lot of times I think it is overwhelming to them because there's a lot of information thrown at them very quickly at one time. But that's some of the obstacles we face, is that we with our work and some of the things that we're doing, whether it's contract management, overseeing project installation and stuff, that's once they come on, it's all in. Let's go. We got to get this done now. It's time sensitive and stuff. So I think that obstacle we face, and I kind of feel bad about it, but I don't really know how to overcome that sometimes, because I think sometimes the best training is on the job and kind of listening and learning and shadowing what we're doing. But that's something that we just face now with a brand new employee that was not part of the partnership, come in from a nonprofit, and just sort of like, I think within 2 to 3 days, I had this employee submitting a DWR grant within 2 days, or 3 days on the job. And so if that tells you, kind of how quick and how fast we were moving through it, because the deadline was at the end of December, 31st was the deadline for that grant, and we had to get that submitted. So anyway, talk too much, but that's some of the obstacles we face, is like, it's not a lot of time to kind of get adjusted and to get comfortable and kind of know what's going on. It's just, you go right into doing the work instantly.
Absolutely. Yes. And that is a need, right? Most are definitely understaffed. The counties, it takes a while to get extra staff, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. So, I think any of our districts would say that they wish they could have more staff. So, when we lose those good staff, or when we have to change over new staff, it does take some time, and it is, like always too late, right? Like you got to get them up to speed. So I definitely empathize with the managers and those obstacles, because I know that trying to get those folks up to speed as soon as possible is such a priority. Let's see. We do have Belinda Smith, who mentioned that she's been an employee for 7 months, and she's learned everything the hard way, and she would just really love to get a division-led training. So that's really great. Belinda, I do want us to chat more maybe after this. And so I would love to discuss more about that, but hopefully this will help with that. All right. So if you have any other thoughts or obstacles that you wanted to state, please, 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 interact with the chat or come off mute whenever you get a chance, and we will discuss those. We're going to continue to move through this. Yeah.
This is Jamie in Cleveland County. How are you this morning?
Oh, hey. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm just going to mention, I think one of the most difficult things, is, especially in a small office like we are, where there's just a couple of employees, if somebody leaves, like especially if they're doing the administrative stuff, boy, I've not messed with that in a while. They've gone to all the trainings. They've gone to, I don't even know what's going on. And so it's like, if somebody leaves, I've got to figure out what the heck's going on first before I can even train somebody else. So
right.
That's right. A struggle at times. So.
Right. So even like needing that support or having a system in place, even for, in that case, managers, as we navigate through a new employee onboarding program, we do hope to make maybe like an LMS, learning management system. That is something that would be great for managers to have at their fingertips. Hey, are you in a pickle and need to know some administrative things? Here's kind of some quick tips and tricks and some information and, ways to get started, or maybe questions you can ask these folks, or something like that. But I certainly understand. I've heard that as a coordinator and a training coordinator, that is tough on the managers to have to get up to speed on those areas that they didn't quite do that work in before, so they could train somebody else. Let's see. We have another new employee that said also they received very little training, but they have a book that they've been reading that's been able to help. Martha, would you share with me what book you're reading? I'm curious. Oh, and Belinda asked the same thing. Did anyone else say anything? Let's see. 2 staff, when 1 employee leaves, the remaining employee does not have the ability or time to do both jobs. Yes, a capacity issue for sure happens in that realm. So I certainly understand. And I will say that this program will not address all of these issues. There is no way that we have the capacity to handle every single one of these obstacles. But the hope is certainly to allow for those who need to do their jobs can do their jobs, and there might need to be help for these new employees, but hopefully we can get them up to speed quicker, as well as have them build confidence faster through this process is part of the hope. All right, so let's continue going through. We are going to have more interaction, so feel free to chat with me or chat in the group chat. So these conversations that we're having right now are similar things that have influenced the need for this program. We have some districts that have 2 staff members. We have some districts that have probably 20 staff members. So it's just not one size fits all, and the need varies across the state. But what we really needed is a systematic approach to identify the needs and support for program and evaluation. So we wanted something where staff, we could actually see the progress of how the program is moving from employee to employee. Also, we want to make sure that we are maintaining support for new employees throughout the year. So making sure that the employees, have their resources, they know who to talk to. That is one thing that a lot of feedback that we've gotten. We also have gotten feedback for the capacity for trainers to spend more time with new employees on sort of these skill building assets, right? There's a lot of skills that are required, especially for our technical folks, or even administrative duties, policy understanding, meeting minutes, and things like that. So there's a lot of skills that go into that might be very new to a new employee. So having folks be able to spend more time and actually build those skills rather than just present a basic overview of what is entailed. Also, a lot of folks talked with us and they wanted this encouragement and opportunity to foster connections within the soil and water community to sort of build more camaraderie and also increase sort of that retention if they have more meaningful and purposeful work with the people around them, then that's always a positive. And also just building that pathway for professional growth, right? We want to be able to feel like we set folks off on the right track and build their trajectory moving forward. I love that. There's a comment about we need a mentorship program. Hold that thought. We are coming back to that, okay? Give me just a little bit. All right, now we're going to move on into the program details. So let's see here. We do have a couple of highlights of this pilot program. First and foremost, I want to say that this is a pilot program, meaning that this is a trial. This is in no way expected to meet all of our needs. This is in no way expected to not ever undergo changes or anything like that. So this is a program that will be piloted and evaluated after a year. And then we will make adjustments as needed, and maybe we'll have another year of piloting the program. It really just depends. But I do want to say that evaluation of how this is going is of the utmost importance to understand where we're missing opportunities with these new employees. So we want to develop and implement this onboarding program, very comprehensive. Also, the goal of this program is to ensure that new staff members are well equipped with knowledge, skills, and resources, and then structure and supportive experience. So building and fostering those connections, the commitment, and the competency among conservation staff. I also really want to note that many of you work within your county's HR program, and that this is not to supplement what your human resources or county does for onboarding new employees. This is intended to be in addition to, and it might also mimic and overlap a lot with what your counties do. Your counties will spend a lot of times, or your district's boards, or maybe you as a supervisor spend time, talking with employees about their benefits and workloads and goals for them. And this does not really address those things. We do hope one day to develop resources to help you with some of those things if those are conversations that you are expected to lead and you would like those resources. But as far as right now in this pilot program, this does not address those things. But hopefully this will work very nicely in addition to such programs, because this is really more focused on acclimating new employees to the Soil and Water Partnership and building skill sets for their new job. So this is sort of a sidestep, but still in congruence with HR onboarding programs. With a systematic approach. I did a lot of research on new employee onboarding programs for different companies and government agencies and also nonprofits. And it seems like there is a lot of increased higher productivity and also happiness in the workplace if people have a new hire process or an onboarding process. So you can see that there's a little diagram here that I took from the Academy of Innovative HR. And this is not just, this has nothing to do with what we're doing, only to say that they took a systematic approach with different phasing, and we intend to do the same. Ours looks differently, but same concept, just different topics and timelines and things like that. So let's dig into it. What is our systematic approach? So here are the stages for the new employee onboarding program. So first, most of you are familiar with a new employee welcome form. That form is still going to stay in place, and that will sort of start the process. So we will need you to fill that form out. Normally, it's the district managers are asked to fill that out, and then these phases will kick off. There will be 4 phases where we will try to encourage and update and discuss with the employee as they move through the 4 phases to be a support system. So here's a little bit about each of those, but we're going to go into a bit more detail on each of the 4 phases. So moving on to phase 1, this will hopefully happen within the first 2 weeks of a new hire coming on board. This will initiate based on that new employee welcome form that many of you have already been filling out. So once we get that and we know their start date, then we will put together a welcome email for the employee. In the past, we actually have done this phase similarly, but we are adjusting it slightly. Some of the welcome emails had a lot of links and it was a lot of information. So we're really tailoring it down to basically say, hello, here's a little checklist that encourages you to get to know your supervising board, other staff, maybe your FSA or NRCS person that works in your office, making sure they get comfortable in their workspace, and also encourage them to follow through the process of getting an NCID so we can start making sure that they are in all of our systems. We also will be encouraging folks to participate through this program through a program called Teamwork. Many of our technical staff are familiar with Teamwork as it already stands. And it's sort of a project management tracking system, but this will kind of help us stay in communication with me the entire time. And I can bring other people into the fold, just making sure that we're moving through the process and not hitting any major roadblocks in the middle of the program. Do we have any questions about phase 1 at this point? And I do see some chats, so I do want to check on these real quick. Oh, okay, we're talking about great resources. Awesome. Okay, perfect. We will circle back to that. All right, so now in phase 2, phase 2 will happen hopefully within 2 months. The idea is that after a new employee gets hired, hopefully they will be able to attend phase 2 at the first available opportunity. These will be on the 4th Monday of every month, and it's going to be a virtual orientation that's going to last approximately 3 hours. It's going to be broken into 2 segments. The first segment is introductory information that goes over the North Carolina Soil and Water Partnership, as well as a division overview of cost share programs and services that we offer. Additionally, part 2 will be more geared towards interactive training segments. And so these segments are very much similar to topics that we have already identified and typically spend time on during things like the conservation employee training, during the new employee orientation workshop. So to show you those as we continue talking about that, here's kind of a list. These were some draft topics. As you can see, these have not been officially finalized. We will be finalizing these within the next week or two as we launch this program. But like some of the topics that you can see are for like administrators, they might be interested in sunshine laws, preparation for board meeting, going over the division website, SharePoint, meeting minutes, closed session, the list goes on. Technical presentations might be strategy planning, a cost share panel, teamwork, the software that I was just referring to, as well as job approval authority. So as you can see, there's kind of a system in place here where it alternates by month between administrative topics and technical topics. And there are 2 education related topics also embedded in here. So in theory, right, people cannot probably attend just one of these and get the same as they would have gotten out of CET. The goal is that folks will feel encouraged to attend as many of these as they would like. So if a new employee starts in March, they can attend any of these new employee sessions, whether they be technical or administrative related. They might be able to build more relationships and sort of cross-train and have more understanding. And if we miss, say, an employee, say someone's hired in October and they really need to go over SharePoint, we do plan to videotape all of these training segments and make them available for folks through either videos or potentially through a learning management system one day that will be specific to new employees as they onboard. But in the meantime, we will at least have the videos at capacity, or we can always add another training. So to confirm, these will all be virtual trainings that will be done by me on the Monday, the 4th Monday of every month. So part 1 will always be presented by me. Maybe I'll have some guests appear, which would be super fun. And then part 2, these specific skill buildings, I will bring in folks who work within these. So a lot of times that's the training coordinators, the regional coordinators or the cost share specialist. They will be involved in these. Maybe we'll have a soil scientist come, or someone from the nutrient management team to talk about becoming a technical specialist. So there's a lot of opportunity to continue to go through these topics that are typically just covered at CET, but covered throughout the year. And these new employees will have the option to sort of make more meaningful connections. Even though it'll be virtual, they can still kind of break down some of those walls and have conversations even virtually with different folks. I did get a question on what are the sunshine laws. These are sort of the laws that govern our local government boards that say that sort of what happens at the district level within boards are open to the public. So sort of shining the light on what is happening at the district level. These are sort of in draft form. If you have any suggestions or thoughts, let me know. But this is kind of the system that we plan to start with, and I'm sure that we will adjust as time allows. But for now, I think this is at least a good place to work from. I also want to continue to follow through because we do have, after the orientation is complete, a new employee will then be emailed an orientation packet. So this will be sort of a fun little packet that will be a bit more inclusive. And so this will have a meet and greet checklist that is very specific to each new employee. And I'm going to show you that a little bit later and who's on that checklist. But I really think it's important to know who some of their go-to people are, such as their NRCS team leader, or their cost share specialist, and just kind of having this sheet of those important folks, their emails and their phone numbers somewhere that they can post like at their cubicle or wherever. So I'm hoping that that will kind of help as a quick resource as people get onboarded. We'll also include a calendar of important trainings and events that we will encourage new employees to look into or potentially attend. The famous acronym list is something that every new employee needs for success because we have so many acronyms in Soul and Water. And then also navigating a new employee hub on the training website. So I'm going to try to show that to you near the end of this presentation, but we are hoping to have a hub specifically for new employees on the training website that has all the information about this onboarding program, as well as resources as they navigate, especially their first year. And it will be tailored and broken down into topics such as education, administration, and technical. So it'll be easy to move through. Let's see, maybe continued education quarterly after the year. No, I like that. That's definitely a good suggestion. And then I'm glad someone else likes the orientation packet. So great. Perfect. And we will have a discussion piece about these phases in just a little bit. I'm going to try to get, I think I have 2 more slides, and then we'll have some discussion about it. So then phase 3 is kind of what we were doing before. Some folks have experienced training opportunities with their cost share specialist or their regional coordinators. Upon evaluating these programs, it felt to me like a missed opportunity that cost share specialists or coordinators are going down to districts and having to spend a lot of time talking about division services or overview of the partnership. It just didn't seem like a really great way to foster connection between those groups of people or a way to spend time. So we plan to do sort of some of those fundamental concepts virtually, which would be phase 2, and to make phase 3 and hopefully an in-office visit that is more specific on hands-on training. So these, again, would still be led, hopefully, by the regional coordinators or the cost share specialist. But these might look like things from saying a regional coordinator wants to go through some common issues for an administrator regarding minutes. Like, here's some common mistakes that you might find in minutes. Or maybe you walk through uploading supervisor documents in SharePoint, just making sure that like that process is going pretty smoothly. Or for technical folks, maybe that's having a cost share specialist work with the new employee to input their first contract. So some of this will depend on capacity. Again, we know that districts have different capacity. They might not need as much of the hands-on training depending on leadership in their districts, but we do know also that there's a lot of districts that have just one person in them. So they might need a bit more help with some of these initial tasks. So we are hoping that everyone has the same hands-on training. And I think a fun aspect of this is that as we break these hands-on trainings down by the specific needs of the employee, whether that be administrative, educational, or technical, there is these opportunities to potentially even have these hands-on trainings in small groups in like an area. And that's a great way to continue to build some camaraderie between the new employees so that they sort of feel heard and understood by people that are in the same boat as them and going through the same thing. So kind of building that connection. As a manager, this was in the chat. As a manager, it would be helpful if the employee received a completion certificate or something so we know they did the training. I agree. And that is something that is not necessarily outlined in this program, but I will certainly write that down. That is for sure something that I can easily produce for you. So I will put that note in and make sure that that does follow through. That is a great suggestion. Thank you for that. All right, so phase 3 is a half day to a full day of hands-on training. And sometimes some training could be virtual depending on the needs, like such as like if a cost share person really can't get out there, but they can walk through inputting something into CS Square virtually. I think there are some avenues where that can still be fruitful. But the point is that there's still more interaction and skill building happening other than just overview of information. And in some cases, we might call on district mentors to help out. That will be a case-by-case scenario. And I think also the evaluation process will help us with that. Phase 4 is the last phase. So phase 4 is sort of this mentorship opportunity where it's a continuous training for the employee. And this is something that we really feel passionately about, or I feel passionately about. We do hope to implement a mentoring program, and I am hoping to launch something later, maybe hopefully by the summertime. Some of the bones are there. We're working on getting some details ironed out. So hopefully this will become sort of a puzzle piece to the overall mentorship program. But for now, it'll kind of be its own little micro situation within this new employee onboarding program. So what we're calling a mentorship is essentially 2 days, right? What I would like to do is have a new employee reach out to a mentor, or me encourage a certain mentor or two for them to reach out to, and then them go and shadow that mentor for the day. My encouragement here is that although some districts have capacity to do this in-house, and I fully support that, I do think there's value in having mentors outside the district, just in case, things happen. So having someone like in a neighboring county do the mentorship. So this would look like a day of shadowing of another employee. And then the second part of this phase would be the mentor coming to the new employee and helping them with a task or skill building or providing some feedback on something, on a challenge that the new employee is having. This is something that we want to evaluate throughout the process, because obviously I think we've all had really good mentoring opportunities in our lives, and some of us can remember those that have left some wounds. So we certainly want to make sure that we are providing both the new employee and the mentor with support and some tips and some help along the way. So this is not just a go situation. There is going to be a line of support that we hope to implement at this phase. All right, so that was a lot for me to throw at you. So that is overall that is the main 4 stages. That is the basic outline of this program. So I'm curious what your first impressions are. Do you think that this is a step in the right direction? Do you feel like this is progress? What do you think? And if anyone wants to come offline, we probably have a couple of minutes if anyone wants to come off mic, or sorry, use their mic if they want to chit chat for a minute or two. And hold that thought if you were coming off mute for 1 second. Catherine Race asked a great question. Would this orientation training series provide credits for DEA professional development? So currently the professional development for DEA is one of those things where you have to be within the partnership, I think, for 3 years. But with that being said, I think some of these programs backdate. So this is a conversation that I'm planning to have with DEA, and have more conversations about this program as well as that mentoring program, because they would be a major partner in the mentoring program. So I fully want their support. So the hope is that, yes, there would be some kind of professional development credit or certification or acknowledgement for participating and going through this program. Let's see. Phase 1 might take too long to implement. Instead of taking place monthly, roll out more quickly. I joined late, so I might have misinterpreted stages. I totally understand that phase 1, the biggest thing is that phase 1, it will happen within 2 weeks of hire is the hope. But I do think that there is some food for thought on, what is considered an overwhelming amount of information when it comes to a new employee onboarding. hopefully all 4 phases can be completed within 3 months. And then new employees could continue to do those training segments. That would be phase 2. But that is definitely up for evaluation. That's something that we'll definitely have to look at. Are these timely? Oh, lovely. Thank you, Chelsea. Chelsea's really excited and thinks this is going to be a good start for one of their new employees. Yes. And then some things that new staff should learn within 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. I agree. That is on my to-do list, is to relook at some of those individual development plans. So that is also in the work. There's a lot to do, but that is certainly on the priorities list sooner rather than later. I agree.
Brandy, can
yes.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My mic hadn't been working all the time lately, but this is Pamela from Alexander. I've got a few employees that have been here. One's been here 2 years and one's been here just over a year. Are they going to be able to do this now? Or I know they had a little, like a online meeting with the cost share person or something like that, and I didn't know if it was something this had already started, or if that was kind of the beginnings of that, or.
Yeah. So they're newly having a meeting with the cost share person, like something that hasn't happened yet.
No, they already did.
Oh,
Honestly,
okay.
our admin girl, and I didn't know anything about it either, which is fine because this was kind of all getting in the works and starting. She got an invite to a meeting, but it was just an email, and she was like, I don't need to do that. And we didn't know anything about it, but luckily ended up got another email and maybe emailed Tyler too, our cost share person, and I don't think they emailed me, which is okay, but it's okay. So and then she found, oh yeah, this is something they're wanting everybody to do. So she did listen in, but it's probably been 6 months ago. So
Okay.
I was just wondering if it was okay for, not brand new employees, but within a year or something to do these things too, or is that going to load it up too much?
Yeah. So I really want is that there to be there's like a certain sweet spot as far as like how many employees will be able to engage, especially in the virtual format, is my biggest concern, as opposed to hands-on. So I do think that there's a sweet spot. With that being said, there also is going to be an evaluation phase that I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. But I certainly think you bring up a good point. And I do think that if there is an employee, I guess what I'm going to recommend is a new employee is someone that's been hired within 12 months, typically. And this program is going to backdate 6 months. I'll explain that in just a second. But if there's new employees within 3 years or so that really think that they could benefit from walking through this program and engaging in it full out, I am certainly open to that, because I do think if they feel like it's a need, then I certainly want us to meet those needs. I will ask that they register. And so if you could just send me an email after this, if you think they might be interested in something like this, then I can get them registered, because I do want to also go through the evaluation process with them. How did this compare to their first couple of years being hired as a new employee? Did we miss anything? Is there something we could have done better? So on and so forth.
Okay. Sorry. Thanks.
No, thank you.
Talking out there.
All right. And before I get around to what Pamela was talking about, I said I was going to circle back. I'm curious if there's any part or phase of this program that sounds mostly exciting to you. Is there a phase that stands out to you as like your favorite phase at this point? These are some great comments. I'm really glad that we can all kind of see these in real time. Yes, and I totally understand, Taylor. Send me an email if you would like to participate in this program. Yes, definitely. We want to keep the managers in the know. All right. So we're going to move on. If you have a certain phase that you like the best, feel free to put that in the chat. But we're going to keep moving forward just for time's sake, because I do want to have some Q&A with you guys. Okay, so a little bit about the program development and the feedback. So this program, although I haven't sent out any emails about this is pretty much our first step in this direction, is doing this webinar. This is going to officially backdate starting January 1, 2025. So that means that anybody that has been hired since January 1, 2025 will get this experience sort of in a full mentality, in a way of, like, they wouldn't have probably gotten a lot of other emails from cost share regional coordinators. This is kind of like January 1 is when we're all kind of getting on the same page. With that being said, we do need to evaluate this program in terms of at least the last 6 months of 2024, meaning that some employees attended CET and some employees did not. So I will plan to send out an email to employees that were hired as of, I think it's June 1st, 2024. And this email will state that I would like for them to register to attend this new employee onboarding program in full ability. And this is mostly for data collection for me and feedback to understand how this program compares to what we were doing versus what we're doing now, and how they see if this would have helped or if any of the stages are too complicated. So we will be asking for those 2 trial groups. So trial group 1 will be those folks who attended CET, and trial group 2 will be those who didn't get to attend CET. Now, as I talked with Pamela and said earlier, if you have someone that was hired before June 1st, 2024, and you think they could benefit from this program, just send me an email. I'll put my email, I think it's on the slide at the end, and just send me an email and we will certainly get them registered if they would like to complete this program in totality. We also plan to give lots of surveys at the end of this program, and also do check-ins with participants. And we will be sending managers and trainers and mentors all surveys throughout the progress, or at the end of the onboarding as it's completing. Because we do think that your insight into how this is helping your new employees, or if it's too complicated or whatever the situation might be, we want to know what you think about this, because this is a pilot program and we need your feedback. So we want to make sure that we keep moving the ball forward, and we're, extending this to the best of our capacity. But as it stands, we, will need feedback in order to evaluate those things. So we want you to be fully part of this process. A couple of quick items. I did want you to, I think you probably have a good idea of what employees are probably going to expect through this process. This is kind of an overwhelming slide, but my boss, Josh Vetter, loves him some flow charts. So I kind of thought I'd test my hand at one. So I just kind of wanted to include this briefly. And it basically just kind of goes through everything we just talked about, but just in a slightly different format. So I'll give you guys a second to kind of digest this. And then I do have some deliverables for some of the orientation packet and items that we'll be sending new employees. So you can kind of get at least a first glance and a feel for it, so that you're in the know and not shocked by anything. Okay, so first deliverable would be sort of a quick little checklist, new hire checklist. Again, this might look similar to what your HR department provides, but this is not to, this is, not intended for that. Just making sure this might help for some new employees, especially if they're the only person at a district. But we just want to really encourage them to get to know the space that they're going to be working in and the people that work in their office, and sort of build some camaraderie and people to sort of help them out along the way. And then right here, we have a little link that will be embedded for folks to register for that new employee orientation, just to confirm who's going to be there on what dates. Also included on their welcome, so these are items that they will receive after we know that a new employee exists, is this a sort of welcome email with an explanation of the phases. So we don't want them to feel confused about this process and the emails that they're going to be receiving. We want them to sort of set reasonable expectations or goals for what they want to accomplish out of this program. So we want to give them some overview items that are hopefully not overwhelming, just clear, little concise, helpful tidbits to help them along the way. We'll also be providing them, this is just a general sort of flyer, if you will, to remind them to sign up for the virtual orientations. And then there is a little bit of a note of, that we can encourage folks to, complete as many of these training segments as they would like, or to attend the overview multiple times if they feel that that would be helpful. And just asking participants to register for the orientations that they plan to attend. They can register for all of them all at once, or they can register for them individually. So it's really up to them, however they think it's easiest for them. We'll also be providing a finalized schedule in this packet of those topics and the months and the dates that they'll be happening on. So before they even see this little registration flyer, they'll also see the ones that they want to sign up for, so they can kind of know all of that all at once. This is an item that will be included in the new employee orientation. So this is after they've done their virtual training. This is a follow-up email, just encouraging some different, credentials or trainings that we have for some of our different type of folks that exist. So just, it's pretty general, I think, things you guys are already aware of. And this is just a real quick glance at that district staff resources contact sheet. So this is just a way for them to easily identify who their people are that can be there to help and support them and help them along the way. I will be supporting the area mentors, and we'll be talking more about that in coming months. But this will be an effort between me, cost share specialists, regional coordinators, as well as the technical training committee that exists to support the different areas. If anyone is interested in being a mentor, please feel free to let me know. We also do have a new employee hub. This is not launched, but you can kind of see just a little brief overview of what this will look like. This is just the starting place for new employees to get started, and some common resources. We're also going to add a little helpful documents section. So this is going to grow and become more robust as we go, but this is just for you to kind of get a quick first glance at what we're working on to help support them in this process. Now I want to talk with you about needing your support. So I do have 2 questions for you. I first want to ask, what do you think, as far as managers, what can you do to help support this program in the process? And then I also want to know, in what ways can we support you in this process? I know you guys have mentioned a couple of great things in the chat, but I certainly, if you have any other thoughts on support, I would certainly love to hear that information. A couple of ways to just kind of get the conversation started. There are some ways that I thought would be kind of helpful ways of supporting and managers helping out. I think just general encouragement of this program would go a long way, and just checking in with the new employee to see how it's going. I think that would be really great, just so that we can all maintain that we're moving in the right direction and hopefully tackling some of these issues to help new employees have these better milestones set out in front of them. Also, just some understanding that this is a new program, and it is very, very much a pilot program. And I certainly don't think that it will look the same this year as it probably will next year. So we will definitely be part of the evaluation process. And if you ever have any concerns or thoughts and want to email me, I will certainly note all of them. But I just want you to know that this is just a trial and we're going to see how it goes. And then also, I would really need your feedback. I really need you to tell me how your perception is of how your new employee went through this program. Did you think it was helpful for them? Did you see benefits? Did you see, were there any lack of benefits? Was it a waste of time? You know, whatever the case may be, I will certainly need your perspective. So I hope that when we have new employees at your district and we onboard them and I follow up with you, that you will take the time and fill out those surveys as thoroughly as possible, so that we can get some good data from you. And then if you have any suggestions on how I can support you through this process, I certainly want to support our staff and our managers throughout this process. So please, please, please let me know. You can put them in the chat. We still have a couple of minutes left. And I think what I'm going to do is actually stay on for a little bit longer. I do want to be timely for everyone's, everyone has a very busy schedule, but I certainly would love to chit chat and answer a few questions. So if anyone wants to stay on for a few extra minutes and chit chat, and has any questions, a Q&A session, then that's totally fine. I apologize that this took me a little bit longer. I just also thought that there was a lot to get through. So here is some of my contact information. I will put my email in the chat for you. And then I just want to check to see if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns. I'm going to stick around on here for at least 15 or 20 minutes. Otherwise, this webinar is concluded, but I am here. And I'm also curious if you liked the interaction of this webinar. If you would take a second to put that in the chat, if you liked the opportunity to chit chat or this Canva live situation, I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are on this. So I appreciate you joining. So this is the conclusion of the webinar. So now we're just going to move into some Q&A if you're available. So thank you. And does anybody have any questions for me or comments? And feel free to come off of mute.
Thank you, Brandy. I put in the chat because I saw somebody asking about the wiki for the admin, and there is a more updated one that y'all do have on the website. So I put that link in there because that is definitely a good resource.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I did have a question for you, Brandy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Janine from Lenore. Did I understand you to say that you guys were going to start modifying your training in such a way that the ones who were underemployed for 1 to 2 months or less would have a certain tier of training, but then the ones that have been there for like a year or more have like new employee training, but a heavier tier, so that the ones who've been there a little bit longer maybe don't have to get, I won't say don't have to get, but they get like introduced to more detailed information than what the ones at the earlier tier would get. Because it seems like when you're just coming in and you're all hit with like such heavy weight of information, especially the newer folks, their eyes start bugging and they are visibly overwhelmed.
Yeah, no, totally. So the tiering system is more or less for evaluating this program in terms of sort of a backlog situation. But you do bring up a good point. This program is mostly going to focus on new employees in the sense of those who have just started. So anyone who participates in the program that has been around for 6 months or more would mostly be involved in this to help us evaluate the success or problems that this program might face. So unfortunately, there is no tier per se. With that being said, I would love if we can grow in capacity and expand more. This sort of tiering for skills and where people are at is something that we are constantly discussing because it is a concern and it is something that needs to be addressed on multiple levels. So if you have any suggestions or thoughts, I certainly agree that we need more of that tiered focus. And we have some ideas, but nothing that has come into fruition quite yet.
Yeah, I think my only thoughts on that basically, I wouldn't want anybody to feel I can't think of a good way to put it, but I wouldn't want anybody to feel bad if they've been here for 3 years, but they're having to take a certain tier that's geared towards somebody because of somebody that's not been here as long. Just because, like in my situation, when I got here, there was no staff at all.
Yeah.
And it's a busy county.
Yeah.
So I had to learn all positions on day one. So now that I'm heading into 3 years, I feel like there's a lot still that I don't know that
Mhm.
maybe you know, but because when you have to put on that many hats,
Yeah.
you don't get all of anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I was wondering if you guys could have a program like that, because I might not need to know like all of the agencies and acronyms and that kind of thing. But then there's a lot of little minutia of policies and how certain things work that I may have missed or
Yeah.
might not be clear on. So that's why I was thinking if you could like grade it towards more and more complicated, maybe not complicated, but more and more detailed um, material and content, that'd be great. I don't know how you do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely a good thought. Because anyone participating in this program, as far as for evaluation purposes prior to January 1, 2025, that will be optional. I'm not going to require anybody to participate in this program that doesn't want to. But I certainly hear, what you're saying, and I do think that one of the initiatives we are working on a learning management system. And it's just going to take time to get that up and rolling. But it is a hope and it is something that we are taking steps towards. And I do think that is one avenue that might help with this situation. But if you have I think what a big thing that would help me out is if you would send me an email with some of those topics. What are some of those middle of the road trainings that you could really benefit from, at your stage? Like, what do you need to know, or what do you still have questions about? That would at least help me kind of, I can mull that one over and maybe we can actually make some progress, because that I think is the big thing, is identifying what are these skill sets and topics people need to know moving past the new employee phase, and how do we reach them for that. Do we have any other suggestions, questions? Let's see here. I'm going to check the teams. Yes, I certainly understand that there could be some benefits to trying to figure out ways to, especially that this program exists. I think in a case where there maybe isn't more than one employee or a situation like that, hopefully we'll be able to monitor a situation and I can intervene and talk with a regional coordinator and they can access the newer employee quicker. So the program might be just slightly different in that situation, but hopefully that will help as far as that. So we will certainly try to stay on top of those situations the best that we can. Yes, agreed. Totally with Pamela. I think I just said the same thing. I just didn't get down to your comment. So great. Let's see. Will there be trainings focused on the job title itself? Is that in reference to the say like the administrative versus technical versus education? Yes. Okay, perfect. Yes, all of these will be specific. So the training segments that happen virtually will sort of alternate between admin and technical trainings, as well as those hands-on trainings will be specific to the employee and what their needs are as far as their job duties and descriptions. So we certainly will not encourage, I mean, we might notify somebody, but like if someone is specifically an admin educator, they would not be required to or asked to participate in a hands-on training for a technical person regarding CS2 contracting. So what we would do is we would either specifically set up a training for that person specific to admin and or education, or find a group of maybe admins that are new employees in that area and do a group training on administrative and educative things. So yes, these will be specific. Also, we will be pairing mentors based on job description as well. So once I understand what the job role is, then we will understand what type of mentor they probably could benefit from pairing within their area. So yes, it will be as specifically tailored as it can be. That is the intention, is to try to tailor it the best we can. Any other questions? You guys asked some good ones. Give folks just another second. Anyone want to come off mute and ask any questions? Okay. Nancy McCormick mentioned that she developed an onboarding schedule to use and look forward to including this into it. Nancy, I would love to see what you developed. Would you mind sending that to me, as I especially work on other things or questions that come up for other managers? I would love to take a look at that if you wouldn't mind sharing that, because I do want to try to support managers as I move things, and this might be really helpful for them as well. Thank you for mentioning that, though. And that's really great that you were able to tailor your own onboarding. I think that's fantastic. Let's see, just a comment. It's also good to ask employees what their interests are and find out their skill sets. Yes, so this actually came up. We have this great technical training committee who reviewed this new employee onboarding program a couple of months ago. And so during the registration for orientation, we will be asking new employees to tell us a bit about their interests and their skill sets. We want to take a moment to talk with them about those, and also encourage growth that feels meaningful for them. And also, hopefully, maybe we can find some ways to utilize their assets across the partnership. People have these great skill sets and hidden talents that folks may not know about. So we certainly want them to feel like they contribute if they are interested in doing so. So I love that, and that has been a recommendation, and that is part of it. So super, super amazing suggestion. Let's see. We have someone wanting to raise their hand. Let's see. Amelia? Let's see. Amelia, you are on mute. I don't know if you're trying to come off of mute or not. Oh no, you're off mute, but I still can't hear you. Okay, keep working on that. And I'm going to take this question real quick, but I'm going to come right back to you. It looks like Belinda's looking for someone help with payroll accounting. I am not sure. So if anyone has any suggestions, please feel free to put those in the chat, but I will see what I can find out for you. Belinda, if you'll send me an email, that would be really great. I'm going to put my email in both chats, and I will see if I can follow up and find someone to help you with that. All right, Amelia, were you able to get your mic to work? Oh no. Okay. She just wanted to make sure that you wanted us to email you if you wanted to be a part of the initial trial group. Amelia, I think you were hired within the first but you were hired after June 1st, I believe. So if you were hired after June 1st, then you're going to get an email from me probably in the next couple of days. So no need to do anything. I will contact you. If you were hired before June 1st, 2024, then send me a quick email. But I think you were in that group. So you should be getting an email from me soon. Oh, that's okay. That's totally fine. Better to be safe than sorry. Are there any other questions? Okay. I think that might be it. So I appreciate you folks. For those of you who wanted to stay on, I appreciate you hearing me out and chit-chatting. I certainly wanted to have time to answer any questions that you had. So I am glad that we got to discuss this, and I hope that you're as excited about this as I am. If you have any questions or anything comes up, please feel free to let me know. If you registered for this event, I will send you a link to this recording for reference at a later time if you would like that. So I'm excited to work on this with you guys, and we will hopefully be launching this in February. So your new employees might be seeing an email very, very soon. So I'm excited to work with you on this, and I will be in touch. Everyone, have a great rest of your week. Thank you for joining.